Okay, so it's about 7:30. We woke up at about 4 o'clock and we stopped for a quick stretch before we drive into Tsavo East. The gate's about a 10-minute drive from where we are now. And yeah, we're hopeful that we'll see some new animals. Now, we did want to see rock hyrax, but apparently Tsavo West is the place for that, so well, we're gonna make the most of our last safari in Africa. For this trip anyway. They're struggling with the roof a little bit, it doesn't want to come up. Apparently it's just very heavy. Hey!
Flying bird.
Because the sand is so red in Tsavo, and a lot of the animals end up rolling in it. A lot of the animals end up with a red tinge to them, like the elephants, like the zebras. So they look slightly different than they do in other national parks. So many locusts about, it's unreal. You drive along and it's just hitting the windscreen.
Yeah.
Splashing when you've got passengers because your roof is up. Don't like bugs. Okay, so we're just at a petrol station waiting for a different vehicle because our guide's got to go and rescue somebody back at the park. Yeah, that's it for safaris for us for this time. So the verdict is Amboseli was our favourite park, followed by Masai Mara, and then Lake Navisha, and Tsavo East was our least favourite park. It was still good, but compared to the other ones, we just don't think it was quite as good. So yeah, if we were to come back, we would definitely come back to
Okay, the flight is here.
okay, so switch done. As I was speaking, the new car literally pulled up, and as I was saying, we would come back to Amboseli because it's quite close to Nairobi, so the drive isn't too bad, isn't too long, and you really don't drive for more than 2 minutes without seeing things. The landscape is better than anywhere else. It's got that hill that you can actually walk up to, and you've got Kilimanjaro as a backdrop. So yeah, it was definitely our favourite one. Okay, so we just got dropped off in the van which was sent as a replacement for the Land Cruiser that had to drop us off to go and rescue somebody else in the park. And the vans seemed to be a little bit more comfortable on the road, but I think what the Land Cruiser sort of doesn't quite match up on the road. It probably more than compensates when you actually get to the park and sort of off-road capabilities. The guy that picked us up halfway point home today is the same, is basically our guide for tomorrow as well for the trip to town. He said that we're going to be going into Old Town in Mombasa. And he did say that it wouldn't necessarily be safe for tourists to go there on their own, but with a guide we should be fine. So just not to tempt the fate, we're going to leave the camcorder in the room, just because it tends to draw a bit of attention to us, not just in Kenya but everywhere pretty much we go. So we're just going to take one of the cameras, one of the DSLRs, and the GoPro for video, and we'll show you a snippet of what that's like. Right, we'll see you tomorrow then. Okay, so the day started with us going to the workshop where all of the wooden sculptures are made, the bowls. Basically, whenever you go to a national reserve, you'll come across either people selling, or you'll stop off at a break along the way at a shop selling you all sorts of wooden statues, giraffes, bowls, all sorts of stuff like that. They mainly use rosewood and ebony, and the prices, as long as you haggle, you can get them quite good in those little shops and from those street sellers. The city tour which we did started in one of those workshops where they actually make them. Now if you get them from that workshop, some of the proceeds does go to charity, so depending on what you want to do, you may want to hold off and just get your bowls and statues, giraffes, what have you, over there, as opposed to from those shops that you'll see along the way. Now the choice is greater at this workshop shop, because that's where they make it, and there's quite a lot of it. Okay. From the shop we went over to some Hindu temples. There are 2 Hindu temples that they take you to. The first one, they literally just took us in to have a look around. It was just one big hall. And the second one seemed to be the proper thing, where on the ground floor it was a prayer space for women, for ladies, and then when you went upstairs, that was where men pray. You had to take your shoes off in order to go into the prayer rooms, but there are writings in English on the walls, so you know more or less what the actual paintings on the walls depict and what the belief is, and so on, so that it gives you a bit of background, and also the guides try to explain a little bit as much as I can as well. Okay, from the Hindu temple they took us over to a park where there's literally a load of bats just nesting. Nesting's probably not the right word. But there's a lot of bats just hanging from the trees. That's where they live. And I imagine in the city with a lot of mosquitoes, a lot of all sorts of bugs, bats are having a ball. So that was really surreal, just walking through a park, looking up, and there's just hundreds of bats hanging down from the branches. From the park, you walk out onto the main street, and from there you can straight away see the quite famous tusks. It's basically like 4 elephant tusks over a road in the shape of an M for Mombasa, and that's basically a landmark point. Okay, from there they took us over to the spice market and the old town of Mombasa, which was very busy, very vibrant, very hectic. Now that's the place that they basically told us it's not really that safe for tourists to go on their own, but with a guide we certainly didn't feel in any sort of danger or anything. I think as a tourist, as long as you didn't really take much with you, you could probably go to the market on your own and be quite fine. You know, you wouldn't get into too much trouble. But if you started pulling out loads of money out of your pockets to sort of count it whilst trying to pay for stuff, if you had a camera hanging around your neck and then you ended up going down the wrong side street, I think you could get yourself into a bit of trouble. So I think we paid about $60 or something like that for the trip per person, so $120, and that included transport, guide, and yeah, they make sure that you go into the right places, take you around to a few shops. Obviously I'm sure it's like their friends or something, but it's definitely worth going. The spice market is quite fun, but it is busy. Tuk-tuks and cars driving past sort of inches away from you, so it may not be everybody's cup of tea. And that was pretty much it for the day. Personally, I prefer this to the Tsavo East tour, just because Tsavo was far more expensive. You don't really get to spend too much time at Tsavo, whereas here it does. With the traffic, it still takes you about an hour to get into the city centre. But yeah, it just seemed better value for money and a little bit more interesting to me anyway. But I definitely, the Tsavo tour was still good. It's just not the best value for money, I would say. Right, so now we're back at the lodge, and given the fact that today is our last full day, tonight's our last night, I think we're going to try to do some holiday stuff and go down to the beach, maybe check out the swimming pool, and then we're leaving for home tomorrow. So yeah, I think we can honestly say that we made the most out of this holiday. Okay, so sadly our time in Kenya has now come to an end, but we had a fantastic time on safaris, travelling between different lodges, getting to see the country. We basically covered hundreds of miles air, land, and a little bit on the lake as well. Yeah, it's been busy. It's been a bit of a pain to start off with when we didn't have our bags. But it's also been really fantastic, and we would definitely come back to Kenya at some point in the future. Right, it's time to catch our flight back to Nairobi from Mombasa, and then off to Paris, and then home. It's gonna be good to be back, but it's gonna be a shame to be leaving this place as well. Okay, so we're in sunny Manchester now. As you can see, it's absolutely freezing even though it's sunny. Definitely not like Kenyan winter here. Second flight through Charles de Gaulle in Paris in 2 weeks, and it's the second time that they managed to lose our bags. Absolutely terrible. We even saw them right outside our plane as we were boarding, so what they've done, I've got absolutely no idea. But they lost like half the luggage of the plane, which was half empty already, so spectacular really. Right, let's go home.